All right, so I'm going to clear these annotations. I want to start off with another question. We're here to talk about proficiency, but I just want to make sure that everyone is awake, right? Get our brain juices flowing. So let's annotate on the screen. Can you tell me what you can see? So there is the text or the pencil. I'm going to draw here. I can see a woman. She's riding the train. But my text is, oh, there it is. So I see a woman riding the train. What else do you see? What is she wearing? What is she doing? Can you let me know? Again, use those annotations on the screen. Use those annotations on the screen, or if you want, you can also type in the chat box. There are so many ways to participate. So you can annotate the screen or type in the chat box. What do you see? And maybe why. So we got, she's riding the train. Maybe why. Why is she riding the train? Let me know on the screen or type in the chat box. Okay, and we could do, all right, I see someone drawing. SG takes a little while. You can type in the chat box or write in the screen. Tell me anything you see. What is she wearing? Where is she going? Why is she there? Who is she? Maybe what's her name? Maybe she is, ooh, good start there. Maybe she is, I wonder what she's doing. All right, so anybody want to type in the chat box? What do you see? Where is she going and why? All right, there we go. Interesting. So we can see she is sitting between carriages of the train. I wonder why. So the train that, the train has many seats. That doesn't look like a safe place to ride, right? She's wearing a colorful sari. That's great. So it looks dangerous and she's hiding from somebody else. And maybe she's not able to get tickets. All right, yeah, so there's a couple of reasons. Maybe she's hiding. Maybe she can't get a ticket. I wonder why she can't get a ticket. Do you think the tickets are sold out? Or do you think that she doesn't have enough money? I wonder. So she's got this colorful sari and she's looking at something. I wonder who that could be, right? Okay, so she may not have enough money to buy the ticket. I would guess that, yeah, because who would willingly sit there? If there are no tickets, maybe she could just stand up in the train. Maybe she's hiding from the train conductor because she doesn't have the ticket. If you saw this woman, what would you do? Right? Maybe would you tell the conductor or would you just leave her there? Or would you take a photo like this person did, right? Somebody took the photo. What would you do? Are you going to tell the conductor or will you just let her stay there? I wonder what you would do. Train is really crowded. Yeah. She looks scared and worried. So maybe she is scared that the conductor will find her. She's got the traditional Indian dress and she needs to go in a hurry. And I see the worry in her eyes. That's really fantastic. And someone has just said, let's ask her, can I help? Maybe I can give her some money for the ticket. Maybe I can give her my seat and I will stand up. So that is fantastic. Thank you so much, everyone, for those ideas. Great. And I'm going to turn off annotations really quick. That's fantastic. So thank you so much for those ideas. I love all that participation. Clear all drawings. Okay. Oops. Stop. All right. So welcome. Now we're awake. And she may be too poor to buy a ticket. That's right. Thank you. So now we're awake. We're ready to go. I will give you a quick introduction to National Geographic Learning. I'll talk about the approach and philosophy of life, as well as some tips for using the textbook to build Proficiency. We'll do some demonstration activities from the Life coursebook. And finally, I have some online resources and extra resources for teachers. So, as you know, I am from National Geographic Learning. You may be familiar with National Geographic Learning, but I'm sure that you are much more familiar with National Geographic, right? Do you recognize this yellow rectangle? It's very well known throughout the world. All right, give me 1 second. All right, so National Geographic was founded in 1888. That's about 134 years that they have dedicated to sharing knowledge with people all around the world. Okay, they were founded by Alexander Graham Bell. And Alexander Graham Bell is famous for something else. Do you know what he is famous for? What is he famous for? You can go ahead and type that in the chat box if you like. What did he do? He's famous for inventing something else. I wonder what it was. Do you know? Alexander Graham Bell? Yeah, everybody knows this one, or most people know it. Alexander Graham Bell invented the telephone, and the telephone really changed communication for the better. Suddenly, you can pick up a machine and you can talk to somebody on the other side of town, or maybe on the other side of the country, and even the other side of the world. And that is exactly what we want for our students. It's great when they speak English in the classroom, but the purpose of learning English is to go out into the world and make your voice heard. So that's exactly what we want. And at National Geographic, at Cengage Learning, we have teamed up with National Geographic to form National Geographic Learning. We are the exclusive education partner for English language teaching and K-12 learning. That means we get to use all of National Geographic's fantastic resources like videos, photos, articles, and documentaries about the world to bring everything to the classroom. And that exactly is our goal. We want to bring the world to the classroom, to bring the classroom to life. We want to give interesting topics to our students so they are motivated to learn and speak their mind. So I'm going to go over the approach to teaching that Life takes. And many of you are experienced with teaching Life. So as I listen, please think about this question. How familiar are you with these ideas? Right? You probably are very familiar, but really, do you apply them in your teaching? So let's think about that. Do you apply these ideas in your teaching? And if you are new to Life, maybe you're a brand new employee at this university, and this is the first time you're seeing Life, think about this question. How will you apply these ideas in your teaching? So let's begin about the approach to Life. All right, so Life has a very modern approach to language teaching. This method is taught very widely around the world, and it's different from some of the more historical methods of language teaching, like the audio-lingual method or the grammar translation method. So this approach is, you probably know, this is the communicative approach. So with Life, we're focusing on the message. And that's reflected, as you can see, in the materials for teachers. Right here, it's saying we want to monitor and help with vocabulary. So as you saw, I just gave you a picture, and there, maybe you didn't know all of the vocabulary. When I give this question to my students, I put them in pairs or groups, and I walk around the room and listen to their discussions. I can see where they're struggling with some vocabulary words, and that tells me that I can help them, give them a quick vocabulary word. So I really want to get their message out first and help them formulate their message. That is very common in the communicative approach. All right, and of course, we're explaining reasons for their choice. So rather than just saying one word, she's riding the train, she's hiding, we need to give reasons for their choice, right? Some people in the chat box told me, I can see the worry in her eyes. That is a fantastic message and a fantastic expression. Okay, a lot of times people tend to criticize the communicative approach because they think that it means that we don't focus on grammar. And I want to point out that that's not entirely true. There is focus on grammatical accuracy in the communicative approach. And again, we see that reflected in the teacher's materials. As students are speaking, we monitor and note the errors that we hear, but the scope of monitoring is quite narrow, right? There are infinite mistakes or infinite errors that our students can make with grammar. And in this lesson, we only want to focus on errors that involve the past form, because that is the grammar point we studied in this unit. So in the communicative approach, although the message is primary, and that's what we want to focus on, there is very much still room for focusing on grammatical accuracy. And you see both of these facts reflected in the teacher's materials for life. Okay, life also uses National Geographic topics, right? I really believe that using interesting and varied topics helps pique curiosity. So just as we saw with the woman on the train, right? Everybody had some idea about that. So again, we can use that approach to engage our students. We have this really interesting photo here. Let's think about it again. What do you see? What is this man doing? What is he doing? I'll give you a moment to think. You can type in the chat box. Let me know what you think. What is he doing? So I see this place is dark and narrow. He has a light. Maybe there's two lights. What is he doing? Great. Yeah, he's going down the cave. He's exploring the cave. He's hanging in the middle of the cave, going down the cave. That's fantastic. Just want to show you all of this ideas that we're getting here. He's exploring, he's going to the dark to bring out the light. That's fantastic. A really nice metaphorical message. He's entering a deep cave. Maybe a man is stuck down there, or there was an accident. So he might be going down to help somebody, or maybe he's just exploring. I love this answer. Is he spelunking? And yes, he is spelunking. I love that word too. Spelunking is, you know, a vocabulary word. That means exploring a cave, right? So just here, again, as you can see, spelunking means exploring a cave. And as you can probably guess, what do you call a person who explores a cave? What do you call a person who explores a cave? So spelunking means exploring a cave. What do you think?
That's why I said no, we can call her a miner. We can call him a miner.
Yeah.
This miner is working below the road, below the ground.
Yeah, so a miner is well, yeah, a miner is someone who goes down into the caves to get something, to bring stuff out like resources, gold, or minerals, or coal, or things like that. A caver, yes, is a person who's just going into caves. And right, a spelunker, someone who is exploring caves. So again, by using these, thank you for sharing your opinion by unmuting your microphone. That was fantastic. By using some interesting photos, we can get a lot of ideas and we can draw out a lot of vocabulary. We've just gotten 3 different words to describe this one person. just because we have an interesting photo. So let's take a look at this one. All right, so we have some weather here. What do you think about this weather? Do you know this weather? What kind of weather is it? You can let me know in the chat box. What kind of weather is it? Yeah, that's right. This is a tornado. And I wonder if we have many tornadoes in Vietnam. Do we have tornadoes in Vietnam? Tornadoes in Vietnam. Yes. Oh, really? That is quite surprising to me. So someone said yes. Somebody said never. That's interesting. Maybe there are like some places where we can have tornadoes. So that's interesting. Maybe after this, I'm going to go on the internet to research the weather in Vietnam because I want to learn more about that. All right, so let's see. We have some severe weather, right? This truck, this car says Severe Weather Research Unit. This is some people's job. Tornado in Loteria. I think that's a different kind of tornado. All right, so this is their job. I wonder if this is your job, do you want to go there? Right, so do you want to go and take photos of the tornado? Yes or no, or maybe it depends. So yeah, some people saying no, of course. No, 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 sir, thanks. Great, it's dangerous, that's right. And let's see, we could maybe go a little bit further and have a debate. So maybe you are the boss. Actually, let's say, yeah, you are the boss. Will you send your employees here? Right, so we need to research weather. We are meteorologists, but are you going to send your employees here? What do you think? I probably would say yes, because I'm a very mean boss and I don't care about my employees. That's just a joke. You don't want to be a killer. That's a good idea, good expression, yeah. Okay, so there are lots of ways, lots of opinions we could have. Maybe some people say it's too dangerous, and maybe some people say they are highly trained, so they know how to be safe. And someone says if they want to go, then they can, because we need to collect the weather news. So as you can see, right, it's very dangerous for the employees. We've had a discussion for, about 10 minutes, just about 2 photographs. And certainly we could keep going for longer. But the power of authentic content means that we can take a very simple input and make it cater this to our students' interests to have discussions, right? There are so many different things we could talk about for both of these photos. And that means there are so many options for teachers to have discussions with their students. Okay. And yeah, as one person mentioned here, technology evolves. Let's use that instead of sending people, right? Maybe let's send a robot or some sort of machine or radar or something. Great. So I really want, just lastly, want to point out the video. So those are 2 examples of video. Here's a quick example of some National Geographic video here. This is from their real documentaries. It's authentic content straight from National Geographic Learning, National Geographic Society. As you can see, the language is quite accessible and easy for everyone to understand. And it's 100% pure English. It's not been altered just for this class. So I'll show you the video. There is no sound, but I will narrate the video for you. Okay. So here we see some horses. This comes from our classroom presentation tool. All right, so there's another trainer called Namjin. He's Magdalai's biggest rival in the competition, but also one of his oldest friends. The day of the horse race arrives, and this Buddhist woman blesses each horse for luck. There are about 20 horses competing this year. Some competitors have traveled 80 kilometers to get here. All right, so again, that's just a very short excerpt from the videos that are available to teachers. Again, you can see that language is quite accessible. The vocabulary is well known to students, so we can use authentic content and authentic English examples to engage our students. Just like we did for the photos, we could have many discussions about this video. Do you want to race horses? Do you think it's ethical to race horses? Anything like that, we could go on and on and on. All right, so that is the National Geographic content. Life also uses a strong critical thinking thread. The reason is because we want our students to move beyond basic understanding. So yes, sometimes there are simple questions like, what is it? And where are they? Those are very, straightforward questions. They don't require a lot of higher order thinking skills or evaluation or analysis. So in critical thinking threads, we want to add these sort of higher order thinking skills, things that require students to analyze information and evaluate opinions. So here's an example. This is talking about designs from nature. And it's not asking us for facts from the text. This is asking us about the different sources. So what information did you find in this article, and what source did it come from? All right, was it an interview? How do you know it was an interview? Was it a questionnaire? How do you know that fact came from a questionnaire? So we can get students to think quite deeply about the content of the language and not just the straightforward, simple questions like who, what, where, and when. Another example here is to encourage independent learning. When we give students practice with critical thinking skills, they can go out and apply these critical thinking skills to other types of reading that they encounter. So for example, here, this is asking about emotional words, right? Drawing attention to the emotional words in this article, like stealing history, hardworking history, desperate people, and sad, right? So do you think this author is happy about the artifacts going out of Egypt? Is the author happy about the artifacts leaving Egypt? Right, so you can let me know, give me a simple yes or no or maybe in the chat box. Is this author happy, right? He's written stealing history. He's talking about Egypt's hardworking history. The team is desperately trying to save them. And sadly, it continues to be a big business. So the author's happy. So one person said yes. That's an interesting question, an interesting response, because I think that the author's not happy. Author is using all of these emotional words. So another person has said both, right? Maybe he's both sad, and both a little happy. So, right, as you can see, so many different opinions are coming out from the students. And this is a great opportunity to draw attention to ways of communicating a message, right? And reading between these lines. This author is using so many emotional words so that as readers, we can kind of relate to or empathize with that emotion. But again, some people think that the author is happy about the artifact. So, what is the effect of adding emotional words? Was the author's effect successful with us. So that's just another example of critical thinking in the life course book. Okay, so next I want to talk about language and memory. So of course, we give students input, they apply it, and we're going to repeat it. Memory is obviously very important for learning a language because we have to remember all of the vocabulary and the grammar structures. I want to make a very important distinction when I talk about memorization. So I'm not talking about memorizing word lists and looking at a piece of paper and going down my list and memorizing translations. I am instead talking about committing vocabulary to memory for later use. And how do we do this? We do it by practicing a lot and over again. The same is true of grammar. We don't want students memorizing grammar rules, although it is important to know them. We really want students to commit these structures to memory for later use. And we're going to give students plenty of opportunities to apply the grammar throughout all of our lessons. Okay, so the life course book takes a simple approach to memorization called the success approach. So I'll tell you why it's called that. Okay, so for things to be memorable, they must be simple. As you can see, this is a very easy activity to talk about vocabulary. It's pretty simple, right? Sometimes unexpected things can stick in our memory longer. So everybody is very familiar with nature, but I think it's pretty unexpected to see a room with all of these nature holograms on the wall. And it's talking about how nature is good for you. So we can have a really interesting conversation. Is being in a room with pictures of nature the same as being outside in nature? Okay? That is a very unexpected question, and it can help stick in our students' memory longer. Okay, things are also concrete, real things that everybody can know and relate to. So here's an example of a video about my local park. Everybody has a local park. I went to the park yesterday. Everybody has been to a park, and probably everybody lives near a park. These are very concrete things. In order to be memorable, it needs to be credible, things that we can believe are true. And it is credible because we have these photos of real people. So this is a real woman. She is really doing something. This is part of her real life. It talks about her going fishing and how she lives a long life. So this is very credible. Okay. Emotional reactions also help things stick in memory. So things like being afraid of heights or things that are fun, those are very memorable and they can stick with you for years if you have an emotional reaction. And finally, stories. It helps if these things are stories, right? So we can take a look at this picture and we see, okay, what is this man doing? I think he's playing a sport, but he's in mud, right? This is not really a common sport. I don't play sports in the mud. So we can think of a story of why he's doing this. Okay, maybe they wanted an extra challenge. So they formed a group to play rugby in the mud because it is more challenging. And then they grew their participation every year. So it's a really great way to engage students and make things memorable by adding stories. Right, and I just have this S here to emphasize the plural, stories. There is more than one. So as you can see, all of these men have a story about why they dress that way and how they have grown their beard and their mustache that long. All of these athletes have a story about how they won this championship and how they became such a great athlete. So there are so many stories throughout the book that it really helps things, language and content remain memorable for our students. Okay, and just really quickly, in the life course book, there are memory boosters at the back of the book to make sure that we review all of the vocabulary and grammar from each unit so that students feel confident that they can remember even from the class 2, 3, 4, or 5 days ago. I think that's really useful for them. You'll see the MB, that means memory booster. Okay, so I want to have a little discussion. Let's think about this one. Do you apply these in your teaching? So do you use the communicative approach? You can let me know in the chat, yes or no. Sometimes I'd be interested to know if you use some other methods. Do you use photos and videos, right? Life comes with all of those, but sometimes we don't need to use them. And do you, help students commit to memory, or do you just give lists of words? What do you think? So we got one person saying yes, that's fantastic. I think this is the approach of life. And it's great that you're doing that. So let's go on. I want to talk more about the tips. So that is all about life. We're talking about the communicative approach, using stimulating photos and videos to promote curiosity, and finally helping students commit grammar and vocabulary to their memory by using it over and over. And one person, Ms. Hui, is saying that she uses the photos and the students seem excited. So that is fantastic. And that's exactly the reaction that we're looking to get from the students. Okay, so 7 tips for building proficiency. These come from the Life Course Books unit order. Our expert authors have purposefully created the book in this way because these things help our students increase the proficiency. So I will tell you how our authors planned out the materials to help our students. So as you can see, the first page of a unit is the unit opener. So this helps to set the context for the unit. We can let students know we're talking about competitions, and they might start to think about all the kinds of competitions that they have done in the past. We can use this to gauge students' knowledge about the topic. So do they know these words? Do they know what a competition is? Do they know what the Olympics are? Do they know what a marathon is? We can gauge their knowledge, and that tells us as teachers that we need to, focus on some vocabulary or not focus on some other vocabulary. We can also gauge the student interest in the topic. So for example, our students may not be interested in swimming. Well, let's talk about different competitions. Let's talk about chess. Let's talk about computer game competition, okay? Maybe they're not interested in competitions. Maybe they're interested in sports. What sports do you like? What sports do you play? Do you play badminton? Do you like basketball? Do you like football? Okay, maybe our students are not interested in sports. Maybe they're interested in health. Okay, what do you do for your health? What are some healthy foods that you eat? Do you eat a healthy diet? Or do you prefer unhealthy foods? What kind of unhealthy foods do you like? Will you change your diet to become more healthy? All of that sort of thing. Okay, this is helping us steer students towards personalization. When students can relate content to themselves and make it about themselves, they are much more motivated to communicate, and therefore they will learn better. So tip number 1 is to set these individual personalization tasks early. Let's do a quick example of that. I will send you this link one more time. Go back to your whiteboard. And let me find the code. I'll send this into the chat. Go back to your whiteboard and maybe let me know what is some sport or competition that you like. All right, is there someone that wants to share their opinion by speaking? Okay, there we go. So let's again go here. I'm going to erase everything, clear everything. Okay, so I'm going to say I like badminton. How about you? I like playing badminton. And I like playing video games, but not in a competition. So let me know about you. What do you think? Let's bring up everybody's whiteboard and see. All right. So we got this one, which may connect in just a moment.
Excuse me, could I share some information about what sport I like most, Mr.?
Yes.
Yeah, I like swimming and watching YouTube videos. To be honest, I spend most of my spare time watching YouTube videos and swimming, but not in a competition. Can
That's
you hear
nice.
my voice clear?
Yes, I can. That was great. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I also like, thank you for sharing. That's great. I also love swimming in the ocean. And let's see, I like swimming in the ocean. I also don't like to compete when I swim because I'm not a very fast swimmer. Oh. So
how many swimming styles can you do? Can you do how many swimming styles can you do?
Just one, the crawl.
One.
The crawl stroke and
yeah.
Sorry?
I can afford. Okay, besides swimming, I can I prefer watching YouTube videos to reading book. I spend most of my spare time watching YouTube video. It just can be called the hobbies or interests, just not in the competition, but just my interest. Yeah.
I wonder if we could make a competition about watching YouTube videos, right?
Yes,
who can watch the most YouTube videos. Great, so thank you for sharing that. As you can see, what we're doing right now, just this unit opener is allowing us to make this personal towards the students, right? As you can see here, maybe this person drew a soccer ball, is that right? Or a football. That helps us draw out the vocabulary that might be needed for this discussion. Volleyball is also great. We could give some one-off grammar accuracy feedback if we wanted to. And again, this is allowing me to monitor the class very easily. So we've got 123 participants, maybe fewer than 100 whiteboards, but that's okay. I really love the participation that we're getting out of everyone. I don't really like sports, but I think badminton is fine. I'm kind of the same. I don't like to play football, and I think football is boring to watch. Badminton is much easier and more fun to me. Okay, and that's the same. Like I also go play badminton with my friends, but we don't compete. Badminton and swimming, wow, fantastic. And volleyball, many people love volleyball. Badminton is pretty popular. All right, great. So thanks so much for that. And here's one, I think the first person to say basketball. That's a really fantastic picture. Thank you. Okay. So that is, as you can see, when we set these individual personalization tasks early, we can get students involved right from the beginning and thinking about the things that they like. And I'm able to respond to them personally to get, build our rapport. and encourage them personally to participate later on in the classroom. So tip number 2 comes from lessons A and B. Right? These are the language input lessons. So as you'll see, there's reading, there is vocabulary, and there's grammar. As you can see from vocabulary, it is not just a list of words with translations, but we need to look at the highlighted words in the article and infer the meaning of the vocabulary word. This is a very achievable task for A2 students because they already have some base vocabulary. All right, so we're having to use inference and having to read, find out the answer. We don't just give students the answer, we must read and find out the answer. Same is true for grammar, right? We are not just listing the grammar rule, and here's how to do it. We give them examples. This is a fantastic opportunity for guided discovery. Let's take a look at this one. We have must. So first of all, we have each team, they, all the teams, they, and players. Looks like we're starting off with our subject, right? And then we've got must, can't, have to, don't have to, mustn't, can't. Then we're going to get our modal verb or the semi-modal verb. And maybe there's one other kind I forgot. So here we go. That's very easy. And let's look at what comes after all of these verbs. We've got have, change, start, run, finish, and pick up. All right, so starting with our subject, then our modal or semi-modal. And what comes after the modal or semi-modal? Or basically, what form of the verb is it? So we have, change, start, run, finish, and pick up. What form? Is it V0, V1, V2, or V3? Or, the bare infinitive, the bare infinitive, the infinitive, or the, what are they called? The participles, present and past participles. What do you think? Have, change, start, run, finish, pick up. Which form of the verb is that? Is it V0, 1, 2, or 3? You can let me know in the chat box. Are these V0, V1, V2, V3, or the infinitive, bare infinitive, or past participles? What form of the verb is it? Challenging question, I know. As I can see you're all thinking deeply about this. And that's much better than me just telling you the answer. That's right. So we're using the form, the bare infinitive, or V0. That's great. Oh, right. As you can see, as a lecturer, I could have just said, here you start with the subject and then the verb and then the semi-modal, right? But actually, I want to encourage my students to look at all of these sentences and figure out the rule for themselves. So that's great. And we all know it's correct. When you figure out the rule for yourself, I think it's more likely to stick in your memory because you feel like you've accomplished something, right? So that's great. That is one of the approaches that we're taking. We want to encourage students to be language detectives. That means we want them to think deeply about the language and to figure out for themselves how the language works, right? Of course, we're going to help them. I gave a set of very guided questions to help my students find the answer. So I'm not going to tell them the answer. I want to help them find the answer so they will be a language detective. Okay, lesson C is the reading lesson. And this has a lot of the critical thinking elements. So this, this text is about wrestlers. They are women. Again, that's a very kind of unexpected thing, right? Great. So the question here is asking, this is a critical thinking activity. It says the article doesn't always tell us how the people feel, but we can guess. So who do you think says these things? So is it Yolanda, Yolanda's daughters, or Esperanza? Who said these things? So if we look at the article, we can find the words with similar meanings that help us infer who said this. All right, so Yolanda's daughters think it's dangerous and they complain. So Yolanda's daughters probably said they don't like the days when the wrestling happens. Okay, Yolanda said that she loves wrestling because of her fans. So I think Yolanda said, I feel wonderful. Okay, and Esperanza said $150 is a large part of her salary. So I think Esperanza said life is hard for people like me, right? If you only have $150, your life might be very difficult because you have so many things to pay for. So that is just one example of how we encourage critical thinking. And that's our tip here, is to encourage students to think deeply about the texts. So not just questions about very simple things, who, what, where, when, but really like why. We want to go to the why and the how questions to think deeply. All right, lesson B is a speaking lesson. There's a lot of functional language for real situations. So each unit is going to introduce some vocabulary and grammar, but that one grammar point is not always enough to have a full conversation for a real social situation. We do need to add in functional language. So the book provides it. If you want to talk about your interest, here are some fixed or semi-fixed phrases. Fixed and semi-fixed phrases, right? And that is enabling students to talk about the situation, the topic in more depth. It looks interesting, it looks great, it looks fantastic, it looks dangerous. Go on, please continue. I think you'd enjoy it. I think you would not enjoy it. You should do it with me. I wouldn't like to do it. I would like to do it. I'd prefer, I'd like, all of these things help our students with real social situations. And of course, you can see here, this is talking about their real life interests, like what club do you want to join? Our tip here from our expert authors is to get students talking about themselves as much as possible, right? When we mentioned about using videos and photographs to make students interested, and at the very beginning, we talked about personalizing it to each student. We want to continue to give them opportunities to talk about themselves. Okay, lesson E is also a writing lesson. As you can see, there are different models of different genres of writing. There are tips that guide students through the writing process, and there are student choice in topics. So we're not saying you must write this thing, you must answer this question. Students get to choose, their club and write an advertisement for their club. So our tip here is to give students choice in their language production. It's not just write about what the teacher says, write about what's personal to you. All right, so next is lesson F. As you can see, there are some really guided watching strategies. Before you watch, let's think about these things and activate our knowledge about the topic. Do you have horse racing in your country? While you watch, we are going to look out for and listen for these very specific things, all right? And after you watch, let's have some follow-up conversation. So what we're doing here is giving them consumption strategies. You know, when you read or when you watch and listen, you want to be doing something like this, having a purpose. What are you trying to find out? So tip number 6 is helping students consume media on their own with purpose. We know that students will be exposed to a lot of English media in general, whether it's from YouTube or television or Netflix or TikTok or whatever they are interested in. They will be exposed to a lot of English media. And if they consume that media with a purpose, they are more likely to learn and pick up some of the vocabulary from that media, the language structures, the kind of slang, the fixed and semi-fixed phrases. They are much, much more likely to pick up that new knowledge from media when they're consuming that media with a purpose. And finally, we have the review and memory boosters. As you can see, we're going over the topics again. What I really like about this is the I can statements at the end. So students have to think about themselves and they have to, you know, look at their work and say, can I use the verbs for rules? Did I do that in my class? Yes or no. Did I use the ing form? Yes or no. And did I talk about my interests, or can I talk about my interests? Yes or no. So our tip here really is to get students invested in their own progress. It's one thing for the teacher to say, good job, you did it. It is another thing for the students to feel that sense of achievement when they look at their work and they think, yes, I can do it. You know, I really can do it. So that is our tip number 7, is getting students involved in their own progress. So I'm going to go over these tips just one more time, possibly, before we do the demonstration activities. Let me go over it just really quickly. So tip number 1 is set individualization tasks. Tip number 2 is be language detectives. Tip number 3 is encourage students to think deeply about texts. Number 4 is students talk about themselves as much as possible. Number 6, give students choice in their language production. 6, oh, I wrote 2 6s, that's why. Help students consume media on their own with purpose, and get students involved in their own progress. So those are my 7 tips. I will write them down really quick. I am aware of the time. I just want to take maybe a quick 3-minute break, just in case anybody needs to use the restroom or you need to get a drink of water. So let me just do 3 minutes. We will take a 3-minute break. So go ahead and take this time to get a drink of water, stand up and stretch, or use the restroom. So we will come back in about 3 minutes. Okay, that seemed like a very fast 3 minutes. Hopefully that was enough time for you to get a drink of water and stretch. As you can see, I've pasted these 7 tips in the chat box so you can remember them. I will share these materials with you later, just in case you want to have access to the tips right there. They are in the chat box for you. So we are going to do some demonstration activities from the Life course book. And I have a handout for you. I'm going to send this to the chat box. It is a PDF. And it looks like it's just sent. As you can see, it looks like this. It's from the course book Life A1, A2 through B1, and it's Unit 7. So you should be able to click on that in the chat box. Let me know, are you able to open it? Are you able to open it? So you can give me a yes or no. I've just sent it into the chat box. Can you let me know? Can you open it? So we got 1 yes. That's great. Yes. All right. Fantastic. So you can look at this. I'm also going to have the same thing on my screen, or almost the same thing on my screen for our demonstration activities. So before we get into the reading, I'm just going to quickly go over the unit opener. Okay. And let's begin with just a quick introduction. All right, so let me zoom out a little bit. Let's take a look at this person. Okay, so we see a woman working in a steel factory in Pennsylvania, USA. All right, so what kind of job, how is her job? What do you think about this job? How is her job? Is it easy? Is it fun? Is it difficult? Is it challenging? What do you think about this job? You can just let me know in the chat box. Also, if anybody would like to unmute themselves, you could do that as well. Yeah, this job is very dangerous. Hard and dangerous. It does look pretty hard, right? It looks like she needs to be near all this fire. Maybe it's harmful. I wonder is it harmful to the person or is it harmful to the environment? One person said it's so hard for a woman to do this job. That is an interesting question, an interesting thought. But maybe she is very strong. Maybe she exercises a lot. She has built up her muscles and she does this every day. So maybe for her, it's not so hard. Maybe for other women, it is hard. And also maybe for other men too. Like, I think that I would have a difficult time doing this job, right? Great. So, this is a small town, not a small town, it's Pennsylvania in the United States. We can go and talk about all these other things about jobs as I do the unit opener with my students, but I want to focus on this activity, right? Let's think about jobs and which jobs you would enjoy doing. So I'm going to come back to our whiteboards. And you'll probably have to click this button to reconnect. And I'm going to go to my whiteboard. I'll go my whiteboard. So my questions here are, what jobs do we need in a city? Actually, what jobs do we need in a city? So, or what things do we need in a city? Is this a table? Nope, I don't want that. I'm just going to clear this. Okay. What things do we need in a city? So, you know, for a town or a city, we need things like a school. What else do we need in a city? Or I'm going to write a town. So in a town, we need a school. What else do we need in a town? What do we need in a town? All right, so we definitely need hospitals. That's true. Okay, so let me write this. Actually, do this one. I'm going to put your ideas up here. Hospital, pet groomer. Okay, I didn't think that that was necessary, but maybe. Okay, pet groomer, we definitely need tanks. All right, we need people. Yeah, what other things? We need hotels. We need people to work in all of these places. We need buses for transportation. We need police. Teachers. We need a school. All right. Gas station, that's true. Oops, I pushed the wrong button. Cancel. All right, so as you can see up here on my screen, we have all the things that we need in a school, bus stop, market, travel. My question for you is now, what job do you want? Okay, write on your whiteboard. Again, that whiteboard link is here. I would like to see on your whiteboard. So you can go ahead and clear your whiteboard. Again, to do that, you press this erase, clear both foreground and background. And I'm going to write my job. I want to work. What do I want to do? I want to work as a farmer because I enjoy food and I enjoy being outside in nature. And farming is actually pretty good exercise because you're very active. So let me know on your whiteboard, what job do you want? All right. All right, so we have one. This looks like maybe, ooh, I thought it was teacher. Maybe this is a YouTube exercise live video. All right. Let's see what the class is saying. So what job do you want? You can write it on your whiteboard. So I want to work as a teacher, okay? All right, so I'll give you a couple of minutes to get out your thoughts. What job do you want? Do you want to work in the steel mill, like this woman? You want to be involved in producing materials and metal, or do you want a different job? Let's see what you think. Happy. So I want to be a teacher, and maybe you could be a chef and a fashion designer. So that's cool. I wonder if it's realistic to have 3 jobs. I know many people do have 3 jobs. So, keep in mind, if you have 3 jobs, you'll probably be very tired. Okay. Great. So this one looks like, I think, yeah, this is a teacher. All right. This one, I wonder what this job is. Maybe a philosopher. What is this job? Okay, again, we're going to make our town. So what job do you want? We have lots of people saying they want to work as an English teacher because knowledge is power. That's fantastic. Teacher at an international school. That's great. And it's linked to your major. Fantastic. And teacher. and nurse and a doctor. All right. The content creator. So that is a really good one. I like that. That one sounds really fun. So thinking about these jobs, my question for you, will our town be successful? So we made a new town. In our town, we need, in our town, we need these things. We need a hospital, school, hotels, police, banks, and bus. But let's think about, our classes team, our classes town. We have a teacher, right? So yes. Did anybody want to be a policeman? No. Did anybody want to work in a bank? No. Okay, did anybody want to work in a hospital? Yes. Okay, did anyone want to work as a pet groomer? No. Someone wanted to work as a content creator. Maybe they do pet grooming content on TikTok. That might be funny. Great. So, that's just a really fun example of how we can take this topic, like a woman working in a steel mill, and we can utilize the vocabulary from the book, like all of these things, skilled jobs, and then we can have a nice fun activity for our students that says, we're going to make our own town. So what jobs do we need? And is our town going to be successful? That task is a little bit adapted from the one in the book that says, give 3 examples of some jobs that you like. It's pretty much the same thing. We're going to utilize the vocabulary. We're getting students speaking about themselves, but it's a more communicative, communal activity with the whole class. And we can work towards a shared goal of making the town successful. So that's the unit opener. And we can use that in a fun way, introduce this topic of jobs in Pennsylvania. Now, I really think this is pretty interesting because we can think about, how things are changing. I'm pretty sure that recently many of our jobs changed, right? Suddenly we had to teach online. So we're going to talk about these other people's jobs. Again, you can follow along with the PDF that I sent you, or you can simply watch my screen as well. Okay, so reading number 4. We're going to skip all of this because you are all English lecturers, so I don't need to teach you vocabulary. Let's start off with the reading and thinking about how I'm going to encourage my students to think deeply about the text. Okay, so that was one of our tips. How will I encourage my students to think deeply about the text? Okay, so here we go. Question number 4. Again, on your PDF, it will be here. Reading, activity number 4. All right, so this is asking us to match the jobs 1 to 3 with the people in the article. We got businessman, trainee driver, and farmer. We can take a look at these people. And let's go ahead and maybe use our annotation tools. So I'm going to turn the annotations back on. And I'll bring up my annotate. And I'll use my drawing. So who is the businessman? Give me a stamp on the business. Actually, I'm going to demonstrate this for my students before I give them the task. So I want to identify the businessman. That means I will probably be looking for some word like business. Okay, so Paul Batista has run his company selling construction equipment. All right, so I know this word company. That's not business, but it is similar. Okay, and he sells stuff too. So that sounds like a business. He's had some bad times, but since they discovered natural gas, Paul's profits have increased. Okay, so profits, that's something about business. Right, and I do have the word business here. So business is looking good. So go ahead. I think this man is the businessman. Go ahead and give me the stamp on the businessman. That's great. All right, so I've turned on the annotations. Can you give me a stamp or a line or a circle on the businessman? Okay, so next, all right, the question asks us, who is the trainee driver and who is the farmer? So who is the driver and who is the farmer? Let's do question 1 together. Give me a stamp on the driver. Let me know, where is the driver? Where is the driver? Okay, so one person thinks that this man is the driver. I have one here, right? Okay, yeah. Sorry, I'm very thirsty right now. Okay, fantastic. All right, so great. I think we're right. This person is the driver. So we want to identify, how do we know that she is the driver? I'm going to use my pencil to annotate this. You can annotate your screen, your PDF, or you can annotate on my screen. Let's identify the words that tell us the answer. How do we know that she is the driver? All right, so I see a couple of people saying the answer, and that's right. So let's see. The companies have employed new drivers driving trucks, so we've found the key words there. Oops, what's happening? 1 second. Okay, let me go back to zoom in. All right, so we found the keywords, and I'm gonna bring up that annotation one more time. And right, she's learning to drive trucks. So there's very clearly the answer. We know that, just because we saw the word drive doesn't mean it's the answer. There's some more clear information that really tells us this is how we know. How do we know that she is a driver? Not just the single word drive trucks. We have this phrase, she's learning to drive trucks. Now remember, the question is asking trainee driver, right? So we're looking for someone who is being trained or learning. So in case you want to know, for my students, they might not know this word. Trainee equals learner. Actually, I'm just going to write that, change my annotation text. All right, trainee equals learner. And great. It's white though. All right. Good. So trainee equals learner. All right. The next question asks us to identify who is the farmer. Who is the farmer? So I know this one might be easy, but again, I'm going to encourage my students to think deeply about this text. I need to identify the words that tell me he is a farmer. That is his job. How do we know that he is a farmer? All right, so we got lots of people going there. Great job with the annotations. Okay. So let's see. All right, so this is a good question. Let's take a look here. We've identified some information. He lives on a farm. So he lives on a farm. Okay, well, when I was a child, I knew many people who lived on a farm. They were also children. They went to my school and they lived on a farm, but that was not their job. They were students. He lives on a farm. How do we know that his job is farming? Okay, so you can live on a farm, but not be a farmer. How do we know that his job is a farmer? So let's go and identify those key words that let us know his job is a farmer. All right, and I see my students doing this here. They wanted the gas under his farm. That's a very key word. We know that he doesn't just live on the farm. He owns the farm. It is his farm. So he lives on the farm, he owns the farm, and he has not made much money from it. So these are some of the clear texts that is telling us his job as a farmer. He's making money, maybe not a lot, but he makes money. So he doesn't just live on a farm. He lives on a farm, he makes money, and he owns the farm. So as you can see here, again, as a teacher, it might just be easy to say A, B, or C, who is the farmer, who is the driver, who is the businessman. But I want to encourage my students to think deeply about the text and show that they found the keywords and the evidence. And we did that by really focusing very closely on the language. So that's just one example of how you can really easily do reading activity and focus the students' attention on the key language here. So this is great. All right, I'm taking a look at the time, and I want to have some time for a short conversation. So this was a very teacher-centered and teacher-led activity, right? I'm asking you the questions. I'm asking you to identify the keywords. This activity was very teacher-centered, okay? And if we look at the rest of the lesson, there is going to be more time for grammar, introduction, grammar practice, and more grammar. Obviously, I don't want to be teacher-centered for the entire lesson, right? So my question for you is, how can we make this more student-centered? Or how can we personalize this for students? So I'm going to open up some breakout rooms. In your breakout room, please discuss this question. And if you want to, see the instructions, again, you can see it on my whiteboard. Let me show you. Let me type the questions. How can we make it more student-centered? And how can we personalize this for students? All right, so this is the question. On your whiteboard, you can see the question, right? At the top, there is this green button that says Toggle Teacher Whiteboard. If you click that, you will be able to see my whiteboard eventually. Or possibly not. Let me see. It might take some time. Oh, there we go. So now you can see the instructions and the questions I have for you. So let me type this in breakout rooms. With your group, discuss these questions. Look at the PDF. How can we make it more student-centered? And how can we personalize this for students? So I will open the breakout room. You can discuss this. You have my whiteboard and you have the PDF here. Okay, so let me just quickly open the breakout rooms. And I'm gonna do 100. I have to do some math really quick. Hold on. Unless anyone wants to quickly tell me what's 117 divided by 4. 30. All right. So go ahead and join that breakout room. You can discuss these questions. We'll talk for about 5 or 10 minutes with your colleagues about how you can make it more personal. Okay. Great. Okay, and I'm going to join some of these rooms to listen to some of the discussions. And of course, you can speak in English or Vietnamese, whatever you like. All right, so welcome back. We'll get everybody back into the main room in just a moment. All right, so everybody should be back here. So our question was, how are we going to make this more student-centered? How can we personalize this for students? So talking about themselves, how can we help students to talk about themselves and maybe make it less teacher-centered, but more student-centered? So I wonder, would anyone like to share what they discussed with their colleagues? I think that's how to spell it. So you can let me know. You can type yes into the chat box, or you can unmute yourself to talk about to share your opinion. Let me know. Okay. And it's fine if nobody wants to share. I did hear a lot of good ideas as I went through the breakout rooms and listened to some people. Okay, so I'll give you maybe one more minute to consider if you want to share. You can type, yes,
I'd like
please.
to share my opinion, can I?
Yes, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. So in a classroom, I encourage my students in learning English and give them some lively activities related to it. Also, I would like to make students more in center than me. Maybe when it comes to reading, we just give them some clues, some new vocabulary they don't understand, cannot figure it out than me. So give them an example related to this kind of vocabulary. And to be more confident speaking English, they should understand that what they are doing. Yeah. And explore more idea in it. Yeah, that's why I encourage my students to read this and discuss the topic with their friends in groups to inspire themselves. Just every student has its own way of approaching English. Yeah.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing that, Miss Neil.
Welcome.
Great. I'm just going to type up what you said in the chat box. Every student has their own way of approaching English. So as you can see, she has given us some really great ideas about how we can make this more student-centered. So they're not just listening to me as the teacher, but they are doing a lot of talking themselves. And then also for personalizing it, how can we give them opportunities to talk about themselves? So one is to give them examples for the vocabulary. As you saw, I worked through this reading very, kind of very much with you, and we all did it together. If we give examples of vocabulary, like if I had highlighted these words, like live versus make money, that would have helped you to do this independently, right? And that goes to say the same with like make sure they know what they are doing, so they understand that we are looking for keywords. She's given us the opinion like we should explore more ideas about it. So what are some other things that indicate working? They can discuss the topic in their groups. And as you saw, we did all of this together. My screen's being weird, but maybe it would have been more fun if I did one demonstration and then I let you complete the other two in groups instead of just listen to me. So my activity was very teacher-centered, but for giving them the topic to discuss in groups, that would be more student-centered. And as she mentioned, every student has their own way of approaching English. So some students will very much want to listen to me and listen to the teacher. And some students will want to just talk and explore. So I think it's very important to have that kind of balance in your class, going back and forth between some teacher-centered activities and then student-centered activities, group work and discussion and the like. And then Hui has given an example of personalization. Which job would you like to work? So out of this businessman, truck driver, and farmer, which of these jobs is more appealing to you? And if none of them, then maybe why? Why would you want to work on a farm? Why don't you want to be a truck driver or things like that? So I want to point out just a few more things that help us to make this more student-centered. These are some ideas that I heard some of the lecturers discussing. So if we look here at the present perfect section for grammar, again, we have the examples here, and the instructions are to underline the verb in the past simple. Let me bring up my tool again. So we want to underline the verbs in the past simple, discovered, and then we want to circle the verbs in the present perfect. So I can have my students do this in groups. Once I give one example, they will understand, and they can work through these questions together. They don't have to just listen to me. So if we say when something happened, all right, so which sentence here tells us when something happened? That is this one. So we have 2004. So which form is that? Is the past simple. So when we say when something happened, we're going to use the past simple. And you can see my students can work through this together. You don't really need my help, hold their hand and tell them the answer. I think they can figure it out themselves. If we don't know or don't say, we're using the present perfect. Started in the past, it continues now. You know, we can look at this one. Lives changed, their lives have still changed. Their lives are still different, right? A man has lived on his farm. He still lives on his farm. He didn't make much money. He still today does not make much money from the farm. So these are real good examples of how to help students be language detectives, how to make the activities more student-centered, and how to make it more personal to them as well, because they are the ones who get to do this. So really quickly, I'd just like to go over some extra resources for you. As you can see, there is the teacher's book. The teacher's book will have these step-by-step instructions for you to follow. And also there is background information. So this one is talking about Pennsylvania. If you don't know anything about Pennsylvania, this information is in the teacher's book for you. Okay. There was the part about grammar, the difference between past simple and present perfect. As English lecturers, we all know this, but sometimes it's hard to remember, or maybe we're tired, or we can't remember quickly. There is this information in the book that can help you explain this and clarify this to your students. Okay, there's also the audio and video scripts. Sometimes we have trouble listening to what is being said. It's all of the scripts are in the book. Also, sometimes you want to read the text before you listen, and you can do that with the book. There are some photocopyable tests. So if you want to monitor the student's progress, these are all in the teacher's book. They're for every unit and maybe every 6 units as well. There are some extra worksheets. So if you want to add, if you have more time in your class and you want some extra activities, there are some worksheets in the book, as well as the instructions about how to do all of these activities. There are the grammar summary and workbook answer keys. again, you probably already know the answers, but sometimes you don't want to think, you just are in a hurry and you need to know the answer right away. IELTS practice test answer key is in the teacher's book. There's the IELTS practice test in the student's workbook, and there's also on the CPT, classroom presentation tool. Finally, there is the companion site. So I've been talking about teacher's book. However, we know that sometimes not every teacher has their own copy of the teacher's book. So you can download the teacher's book from this website. I'm going to go to Teacher Resources, British English, and select my level, beginner, elementary, pre-intermediate, intermediate, upper intermediate. And I can scroll down. The first thing here is the teacher's book. So everything that I've just shown you, if you don't have the teacher's book, you can download it from this website. And all of the other materials that I've mentioned as well, like the worksheets, there's audio, there's video, there's communicative worksheets, all of that's on the companion site. You can see the username and the password right here. I will send these materials to you later, so you don't have to memorize this. Okay, and again, these are some of my suggestions for the most useful materials, like the reading texts in the Word document, teacher's book, student book audio, and the extra worksheets. Okay, I'd like to show you one more quickly, the student's web app. You can do that on ngl.cengage.com/life. ngl.cengage.com/life. It's going to take maybe just a moment to load. In the course book, in the very beginning, let me show you. When you open the book, you will see this information. Oh, the screen. All right, you're going to see it on the front cover of the book. There's one kind of gray area and then another one with the password. Your students don't need to use this code for the student's web app. They can just use this information here, ngl.cengage.com/life with the username life and the password student. Let me show you what that looks like. Where did it go? I'm not sure where it went. Oh, right, sorry. Here it is, the student's web app, British English. And all right, so we can select our level. Okay, and then there's the video. If the students want to watch the video at home, they can access it on the internet. The same with the audio, it's all here. And there are some grammar practice as well. So let me show you just one example of the grammar practice. All right, so let's see. US president, I got to choose some of these words and use the present simple. The US president lives in the White House, and I can do all of these really quickly, and I can submit it, and it's going to give me some feedback. All right, the US president lives in the White House. All right, so that's just some extra way for students to get more practice with the material. Okay, I have some other resources for you. I'm sending this PDF into the chat box. You can download it. Okay, it's going to look like this. You will see some video model lessons. So I've done a reading lesson. We have another teacher trainer named Will Lashett. He has done a model lesson for lesson F, which is the video lesson. You can watch his model lesson if you like. He has also done a model lesson for lesson E, which is writing in life. You can access it by these codes. I've just sent you this so you don't have to take all the pictures now. Okay. There is also the methodology webinar. This is by John Hughes, and John Hughes is the author of the Life book. So he certainly has some interesting things to say about being creative in the classroom. And we also have more webinars on utilizing critical thinking in the classroom. So if you'd like to know a little bit more about critical thinking, there are these 6 webinars on our website, which you can access and view. And again, that's in this PDF that I've just sent you. You can click these links or scan the QR codes. So that wraps up my presentation for today. I would now like to open this to any questions and answers. Do you have any questions and answers? Sorry, do you have any questions? I would also love to know your feedback on this session. So if you scan this QR code or click the link, it will take you to our feedback form. Your feedback helps us deliver practical and relevant training to teachers across Vietnam. So I would love to know your thoughts on today's session. If there is anything that we can improve, if there is anything that you enjoyed about this session, please let me know. So please go ahead and give me that feedback. I would love to hear your thoughts. You can scan the QR code or click the link. And at the same time, I will be able to answer questions. So please give feedback and feel free to ask any questions. You may want to ask your question first and then give the feedback, or you may choose to give the feedback and then ask a question. It's your choice, but I will open up and wait for some questions now.
Oh, hello. I don't have any questions, but I would like to give some feedback. Can you hear me, Andy?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so I would like to say thank you to your presentation. It is very practical, interesting, quite useful. I have seen you share many resources for us, for the teachers and the student teachers.
Great.
The students who attend the presentation today will become teachers of English in the future. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah, so I'm sure that what you share today is very useful to them, and not only useful for teaching the live course books, but also other course books too. So thank you a lot, Andrew. We are waiting for the questions from the teachers and students.
Sure, yes. So anybody, you can type your question in the chat box, or you can unmute your microphone and ask a question. Yeah, the choice is yours. And I'll just wait a couple of minutes because it might take time to think of the question. So go ahead and take your time. There's no rush. And we still have some time. Okay.
I changed my mind. I have a question, Andy.
Oh yeah, sure.
In my classroom, when it comes to speaking activities, some students lack ideas. Other students don't know how to speak their ideas in English. So what I advise them is to use Google Translate. They can type their Vietnamese ideas there, and then Google will help them to turn the ideas in English.
Sure.
But we know that the Google Translate is not always provide accurate answers. So I instruct them to use Grammarly. Grammarly is a free application to have learners to check their vocabulary and grammar in English. So do you think that is it useful to instruct students who like vocabulary and like ideas to use Google Translate and Grammarly to learn? In my case, sometimes
Sure.
it's quite it's a kind of shortcut for students. A kind of shortcuts. You have no ideas, you go to Google and then you type the ideas in English and the questions, you type the questions in English and then you have the answer. It's another advice for the students. So I'm just thinking, it's quite, is it called a shortcut for the students to learn English? Is it
So I think that translation tools can be very useful. As you know, there is a danger of mistranslation. I find especially with Vietnamese, the translation is not always accurate and it sounds sometimes unnatural. So I do want my students to use all the tools that are available to them. But I'll give you one example. For me, Italian is my second language. So I'm trying to read this article and, I know most of these words and it's just this one that I don't know. Right here, termino di annegare. I know all the other words. I don't know these words. I know that this is a verb because I know the grammar. So I can really quickly just translate one word. And I know it means, okay, it means they are afraid of something. They fear it. And then one other word, this one, annegare. This means they are to drown. So they are afraid of drowning. So they don't learn to swim. So when I advise students about translation tools, I'm always advising them just to try to translate 1 or 2 words at a time. Anything longer than a whole phrase or a sentence, that's where the danger of poor machine translation comes in. Sometimes it's great, but translating an entire paragraph is likely to miss out on some things and include a lot of mistranslations. So if they don't know just the single word, then yes, translation is a good tool. As we can see from the life course book and also maybe the lexical approach of teaching, will focus on fixed and semi-fixed phrases. So here we're giving our students support. Have you ever blank the verb and then the noun? So really the students just have to go translate the 2 words for that one. So maybe they don't know the word for skateboard. So they go on the translator. Now they just translate 1 word and then they can make the entire sentence, have you ever skateboarded? So I think there's a combination of giving students some grammar structure models and fixed and semi-fixed phrases to support them. So grammar structure models and fixed and semi-fixed phrases. Then they can just translate the 1 or 2 words that they don't know and insert them and then get more practice. So in conclusion, translation tools are good for some purposes, but I highly advise not using them for anything longer than a few words. Okay, so thank you for that question. That is really an interesting topic. You could have an entire degree about translation studies. So I'm very aware of the time right now. It is about 10:36 a.m. I appreciate anyone who stayed a little bit longer. Really quickly, this is my contact information. So we've only had one question right now. If you would like to ask a question later, right? Maybe you think of a question later, you can definitely email me. I love to discuss teaching and the National Geographic Learning course book material. So any questions about teaching, please feel free to contact me. And if you have a question, I can stay around for a few more minutes. If you do not have a question, then I am finished with my presentation. So I just want to maybe ask the Dean, Ms. Nya Fan, do you have any closing remarks for the teachers?
Actually, I already give the closing remark, but before we leave, we would like to have to take some photos to
Oh, sure.
remember this presentation. Okay.
Fantastic.
Miss Quỳnh Như, are you here? Như Quỳnh Như,
Yes.
sorry.
Yes, Miss. Yeah.
Yeah, can you please help us to take some photos?
Yeah.
All right, so I think we turn on our cameras and smile, and then you'll take a screenshot maybe.
Yeah. So
Okay, great.
I think it's better if we count. 3, 2, 1, smile.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you a lot, Andy. Thank you everybody for coming to the talk today. We hope that in the future we can meet Andy again for other interesting and practical and useful talks. Thank you, Andy, and thank you, Miss Mai Cham.
Thank you so much, everybody. Have a fantastic day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.